Hey Wargamers, welcome to the House of Wargaming. Behind me is the Master Control Center. This is where the Wargaming magic happens here in the House of Wargaming. And we don't do this very often, about every 2-3 months we like to sit down and just kind of do a little show off. Hey, this is what we've been doing here in the House of Wargaming. Here's the projects that you can expect to see in videos coming up. Some of this stuff you've already seen before in videos already, but I thought it'd be nice to do a little bit of a showcase and show you what some of our friends in the industry, or at least what passes for it in our little niche microculture, have on offer. Maybe the kind of thing that you'd like to get yourself. So without further ado, let's take a look at some terrain and some figures. We are going to start with terrain. I've got a Napoleonic. This is one of the soldier from the French Revolution, 15 millimeters from Essex. And all of these buildings come to us by way of Attention Span Labs, who claims that he had some extras. I think he's a solid bro who always prints up 1 or 2 extra buildings to send to friends of his, because that's what friends do. If you're not already following Attention Span Labs, go give him a follow. He sent me these gratis. Now, a couple of things to point out. This particular piece is designed, I think it's for like Normandy campaigns, and it is designed to be taken apart. You can see those obvious seams are obvious. I glued this all together because I can't be bothered. Very few of my buildings allow entry. In fact, let's take a look at one of my existing houses. It looks a little something like this. We'll get them in the light there. So the scale is very good. These come to us by way of Battlefield Terrain Concepts, is where I ordered it from. They actually come from an out-of-print product from QRF, and these come shipped as resin flats. The building is hollow. You glue them all together. You have to cut the angle down so the ridge line of the roof isn't great. And then if you're not careful and you didn't use enough glue, they get their face pushed in. Boy, I can tell you, I've been there. And then you have to apply some super glue and try to pull the face out and keep it level, and it just never really looks quite as good. But it's fine. It's fine. And the one thing I should point out is that I probably should have got this piece out and taken a closer look so that I could match my roofs a little bit better. We're going to have a little bit of a mismatch. And then the lumber here, the good news is we've got this white wall, and it looks kind of Bavarian to me, I guess, the wooden beams there, but we're a little more ivory in my whitewash on the new one. My roofs are the wrong color, and most noticeable of all, I think, is that my lumber is a lot more reddish in the past than it is today. Now, the difference here is that my new terrain was painted with a little sepia wash. I just spray coated everything in a flat white, and then used a little sepia wash, and then blended back up through ivory and pure white. This one I just blended up from ivory and pure white. It looks really different. Now, the other thing to be aware of is that we've got some stonework here, we've got some stonework here. Variety is the spice of life, but you do want to try to keep at least a few things matching so that your terrain doesn't got to look great. I'm not really thrilled with the way this lattice work turned out here in the windows. If we look real close, you can see it's kind of spotty, but at arm's length on the table, it's going to look fine. And if we pull this guy out and we bring in some of my other terrain, this comes to us by way of Alternative Armies. They have a line of 5 or 6 buildings. This is a solid resin piece. It's a lot heftier. And, because now we've got like 4 different buildings that all have their own kind of unique style, but they all have the matching slate roof. They've got kind of matching gray stonework for the first floor or for the columns here. I think it's going to work reasonably well. Probably should have, in retrospect, I wish I would have put a couple of more of these rocks down, and these are just pebbles from the garden, to add a little bit more interest to the base here. One of the things I like to do, and I think I did it on, it's on this one. I picked up, this is a pewter cast piece. Right there we go. See the little wood pile there? That comes by way of Alternative Armies. It's like 30 cents. And you paint it up, glue it in place, and it just looks smashing. And it makes the house look a little bit more lived in. So that's my advice to you. Take a look at your colors. And because the wood grain here matches the wood grain here, I think it's going to work out just fine on the table. Nobody's going to complain. And if they do, well, there's a lot of other YouTube videos out there that they can watch. Moving on, I am going to grab some science fiction figures. This is the crew of my daughter's starship. I'm hoping to play her through this campaign. Dark Day of the Destructor Away, Galactic Heroes by Wiley Games. This is like $2. It's 7 scenarios. Nice pulpy feel to it. A lot of fun. but she just hasn't been in the mood, and I'm not going to sit down and make my daughter play miniature war games. That sounds like a great way to make it feel like a chore. And then if it's a chore, they'll never come back to it. Instead, I do that thing where I just ignore her until she decides she wants a little bit of time with Dad. And if she does, she can do what Dad wants to do. And that means miniature wargaming. I'm slightly kidding. I mean, we play lots of Minecraft together. Now, these, contrary to what I said before, because these are so well constructed, these 3 buildings, you can take the lid off and you can take the first floor off. So we do have some light interiors for these buildings. And I tell you what's funny. I went, again, with just the cream color, and I did that for a reason that will become apparent here shortly when we look at the last 2 buildings that have been added to the collection. And then just to make it look a little more, science fiction-y, I put some hot pink and some, I used green for our tiles. Oh, hexagons. Yeah, we are wargamers, aren't we? And, just lots of different colors. And at the time that I painted these, if you look at them, they all look exactly the same, don't they? Well, here's the trick. They're not exactly the same. These are 3 different buildings. If you look at the bases, you can see this one is it's just the same size. And this one is just a little bit smaller, and this one's just a little bit smaller. I thought, well, I'm going to paint these in a way that I can mix and match. I wasn't paying attention. I probably could have just gone with 1 purple, 1 green, and 1 blue. These roofs do not jive with each other. Look at this. If I take this one off, see that? That roof's a little too small. It doesn't quite fit. So my little plan there to come up with a universal scheme to mix and match and not have to worry about it didn't quite work out. But that's okay. We used dull colors on the roofs, and the roofs are a little bit small. As usual, you want your buildings to be just a little bit too small for size. They are definitely not to scale. I mean, look at this. If you tried to lay down in a house this size, you would feel like you were living in a San Francisco apartment. What is that? That's like 12 by 18. That's like 300 square feet. Huh. What kind of bugman hive would you have to want to live in to live like that? Now, I should point out, one of the things that I did here, because these are science fiction, I probably should have laid out a little bit of cardstock, make some sidewalks coming out of these buildings. With a dirt path might make more sense for that Dark Ages era where we lost the secret of Roman concrete, or small villages where they weren't paving the roads. Science fiction, I don't know that you can get away with that. I kind of wish that little detail had been added by me at the beginning, but after I added the sand and realized what I had done, it was too late. So what I did that was right is, rather than go with the standard grass and stone base that you see in most of my buildings, like those you've already seen, even buildings like this big kind of ale house or inn, if you will, I went and put a base on it. Oh, it was supposed to be a tower base. And then I used the static grass and a little bit of bushes. Now, with these guys, I said, well, I don't want to do that because I already have some science fiction terrain that is gray with those black rocks. And then this is, let's see if we can see it without the glare. Right, so this is from Vallejo Scenery, and it is called, what is this one called? Fantasy Tuft Fire. So these little grass tufts I have used in a number of different places. I also use it on my sci-fi jungle terrain. And so by matching the look at that, we have a more unified look. If we have a sci-fi jungle and we've built our little village inside that jungle, then we look good, which is a departure from, and here we'll throw down the next couple of buildings in the collection. This is a departure from what you might expect. These 2 buildings, I think, are kind of a Tatooine feel. They are definitely more of a sci-fi desert-esque look to them, right? They've got the domes. They've got the kind of adobe look. This roof, unlike these roofs that have little tabs to hold them in, see right here, see those little tabs that keep it from sliding around a whole lot? This one doesn't. It just slides loose, which is, I mean, that's fine. That's, we're not bumping the table a whole lot. I just used a simple purple wash over this, and I really like the look of it. Probably there's a little bit of paint could have been a little better there. And then our blue dome here, again, I just like the way that looks, that little swirly pattern. It almost looks like a planet. And then down in there is our door. Now, the difference between this one and our door here has got it's got a little control panel in there. That the light's not great, but it does have color. So if we take the lid off, with this one, we can actually pull this door out. Look at that. And this is the first time I pulled the door out, so we might scratch the paint a little bit. But that's what that one looks like. And we just put a little bit of color on the walls and the floor to kind of punch it up a little bit, particularly with buildings like this. When you do have an interior, you don't need a whole lot of furniture, but because there is the little window slits where you can see inside, I think it is important to at least give it that veneer of a lived-in look, and particularly with these guys where there's a lot more light in there, you can see the tiling on the inside. So that's our science fiction stuff, and I'm not promising the dark day of the Destructo Ray. I'd like to get this on the table, but with Galactic Heroes, the way the activation system works, you get dealt a handful of cards and you count down. And there's a little bit of a bluffing mechanic, so I've been holding off on the Fistful of Fridays until I have a genuine, real live flesh and blood opponent that can beat up on me. I got a little bit of scatter terrain to kind of finish things off here. We've got some jersey barriers, these are called, and they are in a nice scale. Again, maybe they're a little bit undersized. This is Claire St. Dragon is the captain, and she's my daughter. She says she wanted a female captain to her spaceship, so we gave her kind of this. It looks like the David Weber series. You know what I'm talking about. You guys read. I can't think of it at the moment. And then he did also send along 3 sets of drums, so we can do kind of an Ohio River Valley, huge disaster. Hey, look at that topical reference in current events. These guys now, on first look, they look like they're the same, right? Oh, we've got, some drums that are laying down and standing up. But if you look at them a little more closely, these are 3 unique terrain pieces. Oh, and this one, look at this. I don't know what this is. It's got a hole in the bottom. Like this one is a genuine, let me find the one that's in shape. This is a genuine Jersey barrier. Concrete barricade. We call them Jersey barriers here in the United States. This one is not. I'm not entirely sure what this one is for, but it's close enough that I went ahead and painted it up. I think it may be for the last thing that Attention Span Labs sent me, which is this, and this is an homage to a kind of ship that I have built. I've actually built one of these. If I take the turret off and you look at the backside, it's got the dial, and I can actually show you the base. Back in the dark ages, you kids, you don't know how good you got it. You can just print up whatever you want, any shape, any size. Wow, what luxury. We used to have to use these to build our tanks. Of course, this is more for 25 millimeter instead of the 15 millimeter. You grab one of these, and look, it's got a turbo thruster on it. You put some junk on top, a little turret, and look at that. You got yourself a little hover tank. That is what this is an homage to, and I love it. It's a little bit off-center. And there's another piece to it, but I'm waiting to, it's got a tank barrel, but it's a little bit finicky to get that all together, so I'm holding off on that for just a little bit longer. We'll talk about upcoming projects later, and we'll probably sneak that in as a welcome change of pace. Back to the drums. These are 3 unique terrain pieces, which is delightful. You gotta love it. Oh no, these 2 are the same, but this one's different. So it's got just enough variety, and now we can have either an ammo dump, or we can set them up as like an improvised strong point or barricades. Oh, look at that. Now, we've barricaded off the alleys for our revolution in space. Hey, good stuff. Thank you so much, Attention Span Labs. I have had a great time getting these things painted up. I'm looking forward to getting them on the table. I consider these 3D printed buildings an upgrade over my own handcrafted efforts. You've seen these on the table before, and I've got the same thing. I just cut some cardstock out and a couple of little beads, painted up nice, very simple, easy stuff. Look how good those look. And now I've got 5 buildings that are genuinely science fiction, including, I think I might have 1 or 2 more that will look great on the table with those. But that's it for the terrain. Now let's take a look at some figures. When it comes to figures, I have added 60 Vendée Farmers to my collection. This is just 2 packs of Blue Moon Enterprises available. I buy them through oldglory.com. I should point out that these guys are, what is it, like $12 a pack? So for $25, you can get a total of, I think it's 30 of the guys with muskets and 30 of these guys with farmers' tools. And I went ahead, and because it's the Vendée, I put the little the Sacred Heart, the little white patch with the red cross and heart on it. They're a little bit, if you use these, I mentioned this in a video, I probably should have used a bigger base. Some of these guys, the guys with the pitchforks, are a little front heavy. they fall over, but they look really good. And for just like $25, you get 60 figures, which is enough to field a decent sized force for something like Rebels and Patriots. For another $12, you grab a couple of a single unit of light cavalry, and you're good to go. This guy comes from Irregular Miniatures. He is part of their civilian line. And then here's another guy. So a little side-by-side comparison, I think, is in order. These are, the guy on the right is also Irregular Miniatures, and I want to say that he's really probably more suited for something like one of those Irish rebellions of the day, but it's a good match. I mean, the hat is pretty close. The cloak may be a little bit too long, but I've got about a half a dozen of those guys from Irregular, and they just round out the force really well. Hey, one last thing about terrain before we move on to the next little bit of figures. The stuff that Attention Span Labs sent me is not the stuff that I needed. It's not stuff I was looking for. It's not really stuff that fits really well with what I've got. Now, I've managed to make it fit by the clever use of matching the bases and basing and materials and whatnot. But that's what makes it such a great gift. It's not the kind of thing I ever would have got myself, but it is the kind of thing that I will definitely use. And it definitely, we're not really big on the cult of new here in the House of Wargaming. We limit our space, we try to limit our expenditures, try to spend more money on the wife and kids, because frankly, there's better things to spend money on. And we don't want to overload our closet with unpainted materials. Trying to be a little bit less consumerist, if you will. Trying to spend a little more time on the things that really matter, which is where having solid friends come in, because they can pick up the slack for you. So just another couple little thoughts. If you're not already doing the 3D printed thing, you don't have to start. If you've already got all the terrain you need, stop buying terrain. Start looking at a different genre. Push past your boundaries. I guess that's really the point I'm trying to make. One last thing I'll mention is that I think, let me grab one of these counter-revolutionary guys from Essex Miniatures, and if we compare them side by side, so this is Essex, this is Blue Moon. Blue Moon guy is kind of crouching over. Most of these guys are crouching. Here's a guy that's standing upright. There we go. So we can see the Essex is maybe a little bit taller by a millimeter or two. That might be basing too. This guy, the Revolutionary Guard, might be standing on a rock, or maybe he's just taller. That kind of thing happens from time to time too. So good match, good mix. Some of these guys, like if you compare them to the Napoleonics, I use these Napoleonic guys as counter-revolutionaries as well. And you can see if we compare to, well, again, he's crouched over. Let's find the guy that's standing upright. Our Irregular Miniatures are true 15s. He is a half a head shorter. And if we compare him to the Essex Counter-Revolutionary Guard, the Counter-Revolutionary Guard is, that's a pretty good match, actually. I'm kind of impressed. So bear that in mind, too. I mix manufacturers, and I'm not going to worry about 2 millimeters. A half a head difference is within the normal variation of people. Everywhere I go, I'm either half a head taller or half a head shorter than most of the people around me. So let's look at some other figures real quick. And we got some flyers. I got some unpainted ones too. I need to continue with my Rangers of Shadow Deep. Remember old Thundar the Barbarian here and his pal Ukla? Yeah, Ukla is ready to trash some foes. In the campaign that comes up, we have to worry about giant flies. And I couldn't for the life of me find a decent pack of giant flies that I liked or that worked. So I went and I jumped online and I found, look at this. These are called creepy flies. And I looked all over them all locally. I don't like to order online if I don't have to. And this is from Joker. This is like $3. And there's probably 100 of these creepy flies. You can see how many are still in there. This is way more than I could possibly use. And just real quick, I went ahead and I painted up the wings a little bit. That one's got some brighter wings than his friends. And then I put a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow on the eyes. And there you go. You've got giant flies for like $4. Man, talk about not spending a lot. Talk about buying figures that you don't mind throwing away after a couple of games. Talk about old school. Hey, I can't quite find the figure I need for this. I'm going to go find some cheap plastic toys, and I'm going to call that one an owl bear. I'm going to call that one a boulette. We're off to the races. So we're doing a little bit old school. When we get back to Rangers of Shadow Deep, hopefully by the end of March, these guys will make an appearance. So what do we got coming up? Well, You guys asked for it. Let me pull up. This is my storage box. For those of you that haven't seen this before, this is a Plano 4-drawer. It's, about a hand span tall. And if you open up the top, we've got some fantasy armies. There's my Broman horse guys. I got some Sabbat bases for moving those groups of guys around. And then inside each drawer, well, not quite, because this thing stores, you can fit, slaps the top, so many miniatures inside this box. Each one of these holds maybe 100, 125 figures. And, you can fit an army into, depending on what kind of army you're running, about 2/3 of this. So I already have 4 armies in it. Well, I've actually got 5 armies in here. Let's take a look at that last one. No, wait, it is 4. I've got Bromans, Goblins, Undead, and Dark Elves. Those are the 4 armies that are in here. So it does take, a full one of these plus, if you have any mounted. Now, by popular request, and by popular request, I mean I let you guys choose. I'm not going to show you all these things, but just to kind of let you know that I'm a man of my word. So there you go. There's our, which are these? These are Dark Elves in there, and I think I split them across a couple. Nope, there's my so the Bromans, aside from the cavalry, that's my Bromans, and you can see I could probably cram another like 30 spearmen into here. Or if I just repack these a little bit different, I could probably like do an upgrade. In fact, I now have a suitable cannon. But before I get to that, I've got a full army of these guys right here. Splinter Light makes these wonderful, can you see But before we get to that, as you can see, Rat 12, Rat 7, and I packed them in these boxes so I could understand how much more space I had for upgrading my Broman Empire. I always start at the end. Where are these guys going to live? They're going to spend a whole lot more time in the box. What's the box look like? And you can probably tell from the packages, Rat 02. So we've got some Rat guys. He's got a flail, and I don't know what Rat 12 is. But what's really funny is Splinter Light, when I had this order, when it showed up, let's look at Rat 11 and see what's in there. I think these are the personalities here. They sent me a few free figures, just kind of random figures, and one of them was this Rat Champion, which I love. So here's a guy, you can see he's got a little shepherd's crook, suitably hunched over. So there's a Rat Ogre, and this is one of the reasons I don't often do this, because it's just bare metal. It's just shiny. You can't even really see it until you get if I had a black wash on there. So we've got some Rat Assassins and, just all the usual. Now, the one thing that's kind of lacking in the Rats for Splinter Light is the distant shooting, but that's all right. We've got a bunch of really fun stuff. These big flats here, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. If it was a rat, it would have bit me. Wait a minute. A couple of these guys, oh, geez, this is the first time I've taken them out of the package, so... These are some lovely little rat swarms, and look at that. They even come with some spare rats that you can stick. I may have to do some bigger bases and put little rats that on the bases of my champion kind of in support. So 3 rat swarms plus some individuals. These guys I'm going to use as more of a sneaker army. We may play around with the invisible superpower. Of course, our swarms will be lesser war beasts, right? They will play the role of swarms of wolves, but hey, swarm of giant rats. And then we've got some were-rats in here. That's what rat number 5 is. Maybe that'll cut down. It's kind of half rat, half human in various poses. And were-rats are a lot of fun in Dragon Rampant because you start off with any fig unit you want, and then when they get down to half damage, they respawn as a half a unit of full strength were-rats, which is kind of fun. And then just your basic line troops with swords and shields and all that. So those guys are going to be a lot of fun. Let me close out with one last little kind of sneak peek. There's a 6-inch ruler so you can make sure you understand what the scale is. I have a small project. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. Like I said, I don't like to overpromise. 6 inches across. I have this I got this for like $6. You get 2 of them for $12 for a little gas lance project. But I'm not going to tell you any more about it until it's done. And there you have it. That's what's been on my workshop table for a long time. And like I said at the beginning of the video, some of the stuff you've already seen in videos, some of it will be coming up soon, and some of it may be a little while, depending on how long it takes me to get the rest of the collection together. But one thing you can count on is that moving forward, we are going to be doing a wide range of genres, wide range of rule sets. And the rule sets that you've seen before, we're going to be putting them through their paces, really pushing them to the limit, seeing what they can do. Having a great time exploring this hobby together. I'm learning from you guys. You guys maybe learn a little bit from me. And maybe all you do is have a pal that can kind of hang out with you while you're painting. Either way, it's all good. Till next time, I'm praying for you.